Well, hello folks. We are busy baling away here on Gelvin Valley. Wonderful map for Farming Simulator 15 by Wild Wild Wes. Let me make sure I'm grabbing it. That's just a beautiful view across the valley. It's been a little while since we've been over in this field. It's our largest field, so I'm hoping for a decent amount of bales from it. We are just clipping along at a very fast pace, and now I'm getting in the trees and can't even see where I'm going. Looks like we just took one trip around the field. Yeah, this is gonna crawl. We're doing great now, but as soon as we round the bend at the bottom, we're gonna have a little hard times getting up the hill. But that's okay. Go in here where there's air conditioning, hear the hum of the machine. Try to stay on course. I've been ruminating in my mind just what I'm going to do here. We're going to get fall crops planted, and I was kind of looking and seeing what mods do I have in here. And I recalled when I watched Wild Wild Wes himself play his own map, I seem to recall he had a fair number of, maybe it was greenhouses, I don't remember exactly, or it was fruit trees. I think I remember when Atomic 67 played the map, he had some trees, you know, that he had in the map, and I've used those before too. It's the apple mod, basically apple trees, and whoa, are you having trouble pulling that, boy? I think I can. Yeah, this is going to be a tough crawl up the hill. Ah, it's so miserable steep in here. Just look at that. Yeah, it's no wonder he's having difficulty. Love seeing the dirt on the tires showing up. But I do have, I know I got some mods in here. Let me see, get over here. If I look at placeables, yeah, I have some apple tree, pear tree, apparently also a cherry and a plum tree. We have a kiosk to sell apples. Maybe they handle pears too, I don't recall. Vegetable stand, I'm not sure what, because I don't know that I have, oh, there's several things here that maybe I could do further processing and earn some money. Yeah, then just a bunch of trees. Placeable people, I don't know what, misspelled people, says it's a woman, that's definitely not a woman. Pellets, I think this is, yeah, with the universal process kit. I don't even know if there's room on the map to place these. Yeah, these are just rocks and sawmill and what have you. So I don't have many options here, but I could do some fruit and sell it kind of at a kiosk or a fruit stand. So I may give that a try as soon as I get the fall crops in. I don't know that I have, yeah, I just don't know what all I have in here, frankly. A lot of stuff I'm using. Oh, here's some other fine people to put on the map. Anyway, we'll just focus on the baling here, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I know Wes, when he did it, he also had a focus on the animals, and I'm thinking that's probably what I need to do to try to get out of this hole. I'm hoping by selling a bunch of bales, it'll help get most of the way there. So I may need to borrow a little bit in order to plant some of those trees, because I think they're $1,500 a whack. Not sure where I'm going to put them, but I may try to put them in, oh, maybe some of the more out-of-the-way places. I don't know that I want to take up a field. There probably is another placeable area. I know one other time that I did some orchard work, I tried to put them on a grid. It was kind of harder than it looks, you know, to place them that way. And I might have had to do it in the save game file where I pulled them up, you know, to put them, make sure they were all perfectly in alignment. I think I even used the GPS mod to get the job done, so yeah, I may try that again here. Alright. right, we made our first round. There's no way we're going to be finishing this field, probably. Oh, ran into the fence. Better take a look at this top down, try to come more at an angle. Back up, see if I can come. I'm gonna hit the fence again. Loving this tractor. Wish I could had enough money to buy it. And I'm telling you, I am gonna make it in here, even though it appears I'm a failure, going bankrupt. I have an amazing banker who believes in the farm. Believes we just need to have enough patience and give it an opportunity to grow itself out of debt. So that's what we are working to do. In real life, that would have taken that fence out. Oh, I could drive. That sure would be helpful now, wouldn't it? You know, I think I did all this with GPS, so maybe what I need to do is set it up here. Does that look... No, that isn't quite straight. No, that isn't either. There we go. That maybe I probably need to, oops, expand that just a little bit more. Let me see, about the offset to work with. At just a fuzz. Is that about right? We'll give that a try. That'll actually make it easier to drive. Yeah, I think that's pretty well dead on. Be at the right angle to head on over and kind of continue on until we get this sucker worked out. Well, there's something I wanted to visit about this time in here. Actually has something to do with my occupation and maybe life in general, and that is the notion of accepting blame, or maybe to some extent giving blame. You know, when it seems so common, you can just count on it happening, that when something goes wrong in life, one of the first things we do as humans is to figure out who to blame. Whose fault is it? And of course, the natural instinct is to make sure nobody sees it as something that I did, you know, because, I don't know, maybe we figure we're above making mistakes. Even though we will try to say humbly that, well, I'm not perfect, but, or whatever qualifiers we put on it. You know what? I think I am walking off my course. Let me adjust this just slightly. No, that's not quite. Get it over. There we go. That's probably about right. Let me take it in just a fuzz whisker. Maybe there's that kind of sort of. We'll give that a try. I had an experience this past week. Actually, we've been dealing with it for a while, where this dynamic kind of came into play. And boy, it still seems like we're off a little bit. Maybe it's close enough, but we'll see. We have a client that we audit their financial statements, and we do this because their banker wants audited financial statements as part of the covenants of the loan that they're privy to. We do it also because it is owned by absentee owners, and they want to keep tabs on management, and having them undergo an audit is one way of doing that, just as part of their ownership due diligence. I think I've still got to bring this in, or maybe go back out just a fuzz. I'll get it right at some point here. Well, this particular company, they have a fiscal year end that is much earlier in the year. I think their fiscal year end is March, and uh, right at the end of the year, their controller, which is their accountant person, decided to change careers. So he left the company, and anybody here that's familiar with accounting knows how, well, I was going to say how awful that can be, or how difficult it can make things when the primary accountant leaves an organization right before the fiscal year can be closed, right before an audit. When you disappear right then, there's a huge knowledge source that leaves the company. You kind of, you're the one that did all the accounting for the year, so you should be in the best position to help close the books. And there's a lot of times a lot of work that goes into closing the books for the year. And you'd have to be an accountant to understand what all that means. And I know there's maybe some who would have some understanding here of that. I won't go into that. Just suffice it to say, there's a lot of details that get handled and taken care of. And it's so much more efficient when the person that did it all year is there to help do it at the end. So right at the get-go for this particular client, they started with at least one arm tied behind their back. And I kind of started saying, whose fault is it? Well, right away, you're tempted to say, well, it's his fault. Well, I don't know that it is. It's just an opportunity came up. He wanted to change careers, and so we took advantage of it. It is what it is. But it does make it extremely tough for the person coming in, that's hired as a replacement. They have to learn the set of books. That's something that can take 6 months sometimes to learn all the nuances of a system, maybe even a year, let alone have to clean up the prior year mess, get the books closed, have it audited, know where to find things, know what to tell the auditor when we come in and we ask the questions, that we do. That's a tough enough thing to do in its own right, let alone taking it all on. So the new person came on, I think it was a couple months later, and of course the new person, now there's a couple months of transactions and things to catch up on, and so they gotta keep up on the current bookkeeping as well as close the prior year. So it's an immediate challenge. It's longer hours a lot of times, so they come in with a boatload of work and a lot of expectations. So we're supposed to typically have the audit done and presented to the board by the June time frame, early June. That's kind of just how, because these are absentee owners, so they got to travel to come out, and that's just kind of the timing that works. Well, the books were not ready at all. We couldn't hardly do any procedures or anything in the work that we need to do that goes into an audit by the time the June meeting rolled around. So we met with their board anyhow. We talked through, they welcomed the new person, as the board was getting to know the new accounting person. We talked about some of the issues we were having, the fact that the books weren't done, and so there was going to be a delay in getting the audit done. And unfortunately, with this particular client, this was coming on a string of several years of delayed audits, where it would drag it out months. And there are reasons, but probably, well, I'm not going to speculate on here. I never know who will end up listening to this, and I maybe got to be careful what I say. There were reasons. So, hearing that it was going to happen one more time, the board, wasn't exactly appreciative of that, but they fully understood, how that could happen. And I was just real frank with them, that delays were going to happen. They had already happened, because we hadn't received a set of books we got to have a set of books before, we could do much in the way of auditing. And I just told him too, there's another dynamic that happens, when in my line of work, which is very project based, at any given time, we will have lots of projects underway for clients. Sometimes it may literally be 100 projects underneath any of us, small ones a lot of times. This is obviously a much larger project. This particular audit typically takes, I think in the neighborhood of 350 man hours to complete. So it's a large project. But what I told the board, and something that is so easily forgotten, is, hey, there's going to be a delay. We already have lots of other clients' commitments in the summer and fall, and we'll do our best to fit this in there, but just recognize some of the delay is going to happen because we're not able to do it because we have other commitments. The time slot, that we typically have dedicated to this particular client is in typically the month of May is when we do most of it, in an ordinary year. Well, May had come and gone by that point, and our staff, who were open during May, were now dedicated to other projects and wouldn't be as available to help. So some of the delay most definitely was on our side because we just couldn't. We had other commitments. But I laid that on the table so that they all were aware. And I have found in life too, some things are conveniently forgotten. And this is kind of where the issue arose this past week. Here it is. It's now right into November. And we just this past week had the final meeting with the board to present the audited financial statements. So yeah, it was horribly delayed over the summer, and some of it, with the new person, we had to do a ton of training to get, the new person up to speed on how to do the books. This is a unique entity that has some really specialized accounting needs, and it was confusing for her, and so we did a ton of work just to help her get it there. And I know the staff person that I had on the job on the project, he wasn't complaining, but just tons of back and forth just to get a clean trial balance. That's the set of books, that we can audit. And I have in my head, it was made, about like 8 times, where the new person sent a new set of books. Oh, don't use the other one, use this one. This is a correct one. And my guy would dig into it, and nope, there was still errors and things that needed to be straightened out to make sure the basic accounting was done. So all well and good, there's no complaints about that. That's why we're here, to help our clients, to get through it. And we eventually did, but it took until, I think it was August, before we had a true bona fide clean set of books. Might have even been the end of August. I kind of think it was. So September, we have just tons of other things going on. September and October, it took those 2 months for us to get through the audit while we're working on everything else. Well, somewhere in about October, we start getting pressure from this client. Like, hey, is it done? We got people that need to have it. It's like, we know. We told you a long time ago, this could happen. And there was a couple of email exchanges that were a bit uncomfortable, if you will, where some of these things were laid out. And blame, this is kind of where I all started, was starting to be assessed against us. And I've had this happen a number of times in my career, and I'm not sure how you prevent it, even with good communication. I told the board, I told everybody there way back in June, when we had it, here's there's going to be some delays, and here's what this does to our schedule. And I'm sorry about that, but you got to understand when we're just a small firm, so we don't have myriads of people just sitting there on their hands, that can do it. And frankly, even the large firms don't always just have people just sitting around. I mean, people cost money. And, if you're just going to have them sitting there, you're paying them for doing nothing. Well, that's an expensive way to run a business. So, it's always a constant matter of assessing your client needs, when you're in this line of work, or any line of work that relies on the intellectual capabilities of people to do the work. Kind of like the nature of accounting. Lawyers would probably be similar. So in other words, if you don't have the client work, you don't have the people that there. So even the largest firms would have challenges in that way too. So by that point, it was definitely on us in terms of getting it done. And it was late. No two ways about it. It was late, but we finally got to the end of the line and delivered it to the board. We got it all issued, and I think everything's happy. The board was curious, is it going to be late in the future? Do you have enough time? And one of the issues we ran into, there's a number of letters we write when we do an audit, and when there are findings or problems at a client that we audit, of course, we need to communicate those to those in authority so they're aware of them and can, take steps to enhance their internal controls. So we had a couple of those items to share with the board. Well, one of the things I'm now kind of on the watch for with the new controller person is I perceive that this person is of the temperament of shifting blame. I was noticing when we wrote up in the letter, one of the things we have to disclose in there is how the audit went. And of course we had to put in there, the delays that happened, and we explained some of the reasons that there were delays, and it was just kind of matter of fact. And that particular paragraph, the new controller just kind of came unglued and said, I think you need to take ownership, of all the delays. It wasn't my fault. And well, we weren't intending to imply that there was blame or fault. We were just trying to explain kind of some of the facts of what happened. And we eventually smoothed it over. It's just interesting to see that dynamic. Nobody, I don't care who you are, enjoys being criticized or being part of the problem. Unless you're just a total jerk. It's always someone else, someone else that caused the problem. That so goes our mindset. And so it was just interesting to kind of see that dynamic again. And I'm trying to figure out, because this was all predictable. I told them, what was going to happen, in a meeting. And yet when it does, people are also forgetful. We get told lots of things in life, and I'm not trying to say I have it all figured out either. I'm the same way. Someone will give me some advice, and if I'm not in a position to comprehend the advice, it is hard to take it in. You know what I mean? It's kind of like talking to a 10-year-old and giving them marriage advice. Hey, someday when you're married, this is something you need to, take into account or be wary of. And then, when that kid eventually grows up and gets married and maybe forgot the advice, didn't realize the value of it, it of course would be wrong of a person to say, well, I told you so. But yeah, I was 10 years old. I didn't know what I didn't know. And, and I'm not trying to say, that just the fact that I told the board Um, Maybe what I could have done better on in retrospect, as I think on it, is I could have tried to maybe communicate better continually with the board, or with the board representative who's working with us. That's probably as much as anything where maybe I could have done definitely better to keep them in the loop so that they knew what was happening. And frankly, I don't think the board necessarily cared about it. They were glad to have it done. I don't think it didn't harm the organization at all. But anyway, I mean, it's always a little painful and awkward when stuff like that happens in jobs. But it's something I think about a lot, and especially when a delay happens, as to how to maintain some amount of control over the situation so that the blame game doesn't just happen later, especially on their part, but also on ours. It isn't fair for us to just blame it on someone too if we also were party to it. So maybe you guys have worse problems that keep you up at night, but this is a sizable client to our firm, so I definitely want to keep him happy. And the good news to me out of all of this is the new person, even though I have a few things that I'm going to try to keep an eye out for with them, I do appreciate how much this person dug in, tried to understand it, even made a lot of improvements that the previous guy, just didn't do, couldn't do, wouldn't do. I don't know what the deal was. So it is, there's nothing like a fresh set of eyes, to really help the situation out. But I could have gone without the blame game, and it's unbecoming, really. I don't know how it is for you, but when you're around a person who is constantly blaming other people for whatever problems happen in their life, I don't know, I just don't want to hear it. And eventually, probably any of us, you get enough of it, it's like, I see what the problem is. The problem is you. It's not these other people, because, everybody else is always being blamed for everything in your life. And so, yeah, I don't like hearing that. I'm much fonder of just sticking with the facts of a situation. Things are what they are, and you work through them. You work through them together. It's in a relationship, it's exhausting if you have to be with someone who is constantly figuring out who to blame for something that happened, rather than putting energy towards fixing the problem or whatever. It's exhausting to have to deal with a life that way. Come on, tractor. Boop. Set up my GPS. So what do you guys think? I know I just rambling here about various topics of interest or things that hit me during a particular week. But you know what? I'm betting money, even if someone listening to this that isn't an accountant, but you full well know what it feels like to be blamed for something, and how it makes our spine stiffen instantly. And it's like, what? Me? Who? Me? No, I'm not the one. And what's incredible sometimes, how refreshing it is when someone owns the situation, says, yeah, I did it. It's my fault, my responsibility, I'm sorry, and let me try to fix it. Here, let me try to take care of it for you. That is extremely rare. And I have an enormous amount of respect for people who are willing to do that. But it's hard. Nobody likes to be the one that takes the blame for something that goes down. But I tell you, if you do that, I do think you win more respect in the end, and you can take ownership of something and be part of the solution, versus being one that always defers to someone else. Someone that's constantly blaming someone else. I don't know how it is for you, but I don't then go to that person looking for solutions. You know, it's the person who owns it, is responsible, and is working on a solution that, you know, is someone that you can work with. You know, crank around treacherously steep over here. Oh, steep going downhill too. Good old GPS. Yeah, this is one steep hill. Don't know that we'd be doing this in real life. And there's the bell. Probably high time I shut my mouth and actually get to bed. It's kind of late at night here as I'm doing this. That seems to be about the only decent time I have to record these episodes when the house is quiet. We are almost, well, we basically are halfway done baling this particular field. Oh, end up heading into the fence. Oh, I know I'm doing damage to this tractor, which is part of the reason I'm renting it instead of, well, I can't afford it anyhow. Now just a fuzz more to do, and then we'll be climbing back up the hill. Or maybe I'll just drive to the top and take them down from the top. That seemed to work pretty well, because turning uphill each round is going to take a little time, so maybe I'll just try to do that and to keep that go. But otherwise, thank you for coming along for the ride. There's even a buddy seat in this particular tractor. If we look down here, so some of y'all's been riding. Oh shoot, I got it down. Maybe you're not riding in there after all. But let me know, what stories do you have of getting blamed for something, or observing just human nature in action and seeing that dynamic, and how has it impacted you? In the meantime, I'm gonna try to reset this baler to the top of the hill as soon as I get down here and continue on with the work. Thank you all. We'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.